Welcome back to Matchnik Garage. Today we are putting the engine into McMurray, our 67 Chevrolet C10. But which one do we choose? Got a 350, don't know anything about it. Another 350, don't know anything about it. And I've got a 305. I've heard this one run, so that's the one we're going to go with. I did look into these 350s. This one I pulled out of an estate sale. It was in a garden shed, dry as a bone inside, so don't really know if we can trust it. Got to look further into that one. This one over here, I was told it runs, but the inside says it's got, you know, 1,000,000 miles on it. So we're gonna save that one. This one, like I said, I heard it run, pulled it out of a truck. I was told it drove, but you know, the kickdown cables broke, so it couldn't have driven that well. But it was only running on 7 cylinders. So we're gonna do the right thing and worry about that later. So what we're gonna do first, I'm gonna get Sam out here, we're gonna get the hood off the truck. I'm gonna just clean up the firewall a little bit, get the heater box off, and make some room. And then we'll get this 305 up in the air. It's just a good baseline. It should run pretty good, you know, provided that 8th cylinder comes back around. And, you know, we'll go from there. All right, ready? Mm-hmm. Well, grab hold. Probably want to hold more right there. Got it?
I think so.
All right. Lift it up off the rod. All right. Now push it right above your head.
Yeah.
You might have to scoot your one hand forward.
I can't.
Okay, right above your head. Okay, keep going. Yeah, that should ride. Good enough. Well, now that we got the hood off, I went and pulled the heater box off, and look at that nest. You know, that's at least a 10-unit apartment. So we're gonna get that vacuumed out. You know, even had some snake skin. Do they have snakes in Oklahoma? I don't know. Never been there. So we'll get that. But, you know, notice there's a little bit of rot here. So we'll have to fix that. You know, this hole, for whatever reason, you know, they cut that open. So we'll get this cleaned up. Just, you know, so we're working on something that's halfway clean. And then we'll get that engine up in the air here and get some motor mounts on it. I've got new mounts. Got a new cross member for the transmission. Because if you remember, this was a 3 on the tree. So it had bell housing mounts. And we took that cross member out in the last video. So I've got a new cross member. We'll get that all set in here and you know, try to get somewhere with this. All right, so here we are. I've got the engine mount put on, the transmission mount. Drained as much of the ATF out of it as I could so we don't make a mess. Transmission cooler lines, all the extra stuff that would be in the way right away. There's more of this up front we're going to be taking off. We've got a different intake distributor, stuff like that. So this is out of an 84 Chevy C10, 305, 700 R4. Just trying to get, you know, we'll have overdrive, that sort of thing. So I know we're going to have to change the fuel pump. This is a return style. Our C10 tank on McMurray is not a return style. So I've got a different fuel pump. So let's get this up. We'll get it in and see if we can't get it lined up and sitting in there. Getting it in there and bolted down. That's going to be the biggest step right now, in my eyes anyway. And hopefully we can get it running soon here. Easy. Normally I like to pull the front clip off, but I didn't want to do that on this one. I didn't want to uncover any more problems that I'm almost positive are there. And then that'll delay getting it going. Right now it's together and we'll call it good, you know. You might be asking, why a 305 when you've got 350 sitting there? And there's a couple reasons. One, I've heard this one run. That's a big one. Two, you know, it's kind of a budget thing. You know, if I can get this one in here, get all the supporting systems in there, cooling system, fuel, get all that running, that makes it easier to swap something else in there in the future because all of the surrounding systems and all that are already there. Right now it has nothing. So there's a lot of other parts of the budget that are going towards, you know, electrical, cooling system. You know, you gotta have a radiator if you want to go anywhere. So I've got this aftermarket cross member. I don't know if it's supposed to go up there, down there, up there. I think it's supposed to go right there, above the frame. That would make sense. Let's see if we can get it up high enough here. That's about touching the floor. Oh, look at that. All right. There's one. Now, hopefully, there's enough factory holes in the frame, and whoever designed this cross member in China knew there was the holes in the frame, and we can get something to line up because we got a little bit of play there and all of that noise. But I think we're a little too far to the passenger side, so let's see. And it came with these butter bolts, so we'll see if we can snap those right off. Yeah, you know, we'll figure it out later. It'll all make sense one day. Let's see, we're in the middle. Oh, we're way off here. Okay, there's one. See if we can get that same one on the other side. Come on. That might not be the right one. That might not be the... What is going on here? That one. So we gotta. Let's take that out. See if we can't. Come on. Something's gotta fit. Okay. I mean, maybe the frame rails are spread out ever so slightly. I don't know. But both of them bolts are pointing outward. See if we can't get all 4 of them in. Alright, that's all 4. Wonder if we're a little crooked. Okay, progress. For some reason, the bunch of engine oil leaked out into the bell housing. I'm sure that's fine. One more here. All right. Let's tighten these 2 down first. Probably super crooked. Probably not, maybe not too bad. Did I want here? No, that wouldn't be right. I just want the tube to be hitting on the speedometer drive gear part on the trams, whatever that's called. I got about 1/8 of an inch there right now. Let's lower it down. And that's what I was afraid of. Lowered it down and it's touching immediately. Snap, crackle, pop. Jesus. So, let's loosen those back up here for a minute. Whoa, not that far. Calm down. Worst case scenario, I may have to shim up the bushing or the transmission mount bushing just to get some clearance there, because that's going to rattle. And it'll wear on the tube, it'll wear on the tail housing. It just won't be good. So, can we get any more forward? I don't think we can. I don't think we've got any more forward movement. I do have a factory cross member if this isn't going to work, but I'd much rather use this one. Gives me room for the exhaust, which we'll have to make some room in this trailing arm cross member for exhaust to go through. I hate when exhaust comes down below the frame. I don't like it. But, all right, let me play around with this for a little bit and see if we can't get some more clearance there. Like I said, worst case scenario, we might have to shim that up a little bit, put some longer bolts on the transmission mount, and see what we can do. All right, engine's bolted down. Got that cross member figured out. I just had to space the transmission up a little bit, get the clearance we needed. So now, while we've got this here, you know, and it's far more inconvenient to work on with it in the vehicle, let's pull the valve covers off, distributor, intake, water pump, crank pulley. Let's get it stripped down and get it ready for some new parts. Let's do the easy stuff first here. A lot of this we won't be reusing. I've got a new intake. We might use these valve covers. I'm not sure which ones I want to use yet. Oh, come on, just come out of there. But I hate to put something all together with, you know, an old water pump that I don't know how long it's sat. Hey, there's a hole in there for the bolts to fall out. So let's just rip everything off. We'll pull the spark plugs out, see if there's any issues with the cylinder. You know, like I said, it ran on 7 cylinders, so you know, that's a good start. Alright, I wonder how much antifreeze is still in this. I tried to dump as much as I could out. Oh, that's an ugly bolt. One must be in the water jacket. Oh, no waterfall. Oh, a little bit. But not too bad. I'm sure there's still more in there, but it can stay in there. Oh, that might be staying on there. This Someone feels like it might break. Just so corroded in there. Thermostat housing's seen better days, a lot of pitting in there. But I suppose we gotta take the valve covers off to get the intake. Okay, half the studs came out, half the nuts came off the studs. Let's see what we've got. Well, if you can't get them off, were they really leaking? Jeez. I mean, I did give this engine a wash. Oh yeah. Maybe one of those 350s wouldn't have been so bad. That's rough. Well, you know, we're in it now. Supposedly, the truck this came out of sat for 8 years. And I believe it. You know, the frame was full of rust holes. The control arms were rusted out. Oh, that's gone. I've never seen control arms rust out like that on an older rig. Ain't that was... Oh, do I really gotta pull the EGR? You son of a... That'll never come out. Let's see what we got. That was easier than I thought. You know, these factory intakes, especially out of the 80s, they've got all these vacuum switches. I mean, this thing had so many vacuum lines on it. I mean, what did they all do? Did they even work right in the 80s? That's plugged right up. Come on. That side's a little better. Why is one side not as sludged up as the other. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit, but is it because it's got this vent? I mean, crankcase vent? I don't know. But that side is significantly cleaner. Gaskets are crisp, to say the least. But, you know, doesn't look too bad, I guess. Yeah, the 350 over there that looks worse, it's dry as a bone inside. I found that on the marketplace. Old guy passed away, and he was big into, you know, just doing anything and everything he could in his garage, and he had that shoved in one of those metal garden sheds that you get at the big box stores. You know, right next to a 327, but unfortunately that was already spoken for. Or else I would have got that too. But yeah, that thing was just so dry. I mean, it was crudded up, but dry. Like, so that thing had to be sitting for quite some time. All right, let's get plate off. Now this did have a quadrajet on it. It did run, but poorly. The guy said he couldn't get it to idle. So the first thing I did was brought it home and plug off every vacuum port that I could find, and it idled right away. But this is spread bore, and the carburetor I got is for square bore. So instead of using an adapter, we're just going to put a different square bore intake on it. Crispy. Let's see if this will come out. Look at all that sludge. That's rough. There's so many extra brackets and like what for? I mean, it looks like all of the push rods are, I mean, oh, that one's got pressure on it, but make sure they all spin, not bent. Because I didn't hear any clanking. When it ran. I mean, I couldn't run it long. I didn't want to put any extra gas in it that I'd have to get out. But it also, the gas tank was something marked diesel in the toolbox that was in the bed. And they just drilled some holes in the toolbox and ran some rubber hose over the sharp edges. I'm sure that was a lasting repair. We're gonna have to get those with a wrench. And this one, so much crud around it. I mean, I'm sure over the years this has been off a time or two. It's just so caked up. I mean, the first thing I did when I got this engine out of that truck was pressure wash it, because it was bad. Nope, that one's gonna wanna. There we go. Let's see if these ones will. All right. Well, I'm going to spin these out because it's going to take forever with this wrench. And then bring you back when we're ready to pull the intake. All right. That wasn't as bad as I thought. This one here, that one was tough, but I'm assuming that's from the the heat from the EGR. Let's see if we can't. There we go. All right. Let's see what we got. Oh, jeez, does that weigh a ton? All right. Well, you know, about what I expected. Just piles of it. Like, how do you get that cleaned out without just plugging everything up? Like, I think that, oh, I think that's a good, that's a good half inch of slop right there. I don't know, is that like, how does that happen? Like, is that just like a leaking intake manifold, or, I don't know. So we'll have to try and get some of that cleaned out. Oh, these gaskets gonna come off. Are you gonna fight? Are you gonna fight? What do you got? Well, not too bad. How's this one? What do you want to do? All right. Well, that wasn't so bad. Lots of cleaning up work here. Lots of cleanup work. I can only imagine what the oil pan looks like. But I don't want to get that far into it unless I have to. And if we're going to go that far into it, we might as well start digging into a 350 over there. But we know it runs, so we'll just make it better than it was. Probably should go through and adjust all the rockers again, because that probably hasn't been done in forever or ever. And you know, good cheap insurance. But let's pull the spark plugs out. They look newer, like somebody put plugs in here just to see if they could get it to run better, thinking that was the problem. So let's pull those out and see if there's any cylinders that look suspect. And you know, at least then we got a place to look. So we're on the driver's side. I mean, hell, maybe it was just a broken spark plug. You know, had a crack in it. You know, a little wet. I mean, it's probably been 2 months since I had this running. Come on. I wonder if the valve seals are smoked and it's just leaking oil down. You know, it's about the same. I mean, it could have been a bad plug wire too. I don't know. It didn't look like they were new. That one looks a bit more carboned up. These ones over here are significantly looser than the ones that were over there, so maybe it was a couple folks trying to work on it, and one guy did this side and the other guy did the other side. About the same. These are Champions. I've got some Delcos to put back in here. Freshen them up. Oh, that one's stiff. Oh, I wonder if my headers are going to fit on here. It's kind of looking like they're not. Not seeing any cracked porcelain or anything, but they all look about the same. Definitely running rich. But we'll see. So I'm going to get all this cleaned up. And like I said, we should probably run the valves. Adjust them all up to where they should be. Get this pulley off. I've got some different goodies to put on here. And he said this fuel pump didn't work. I wonder if the fuel pump push rod's missing. Let's pull that off. Curiosity is getting to me. Well, it's loose. Oh, he's got all this paper on there for. I mean, this thing was just hacked together just to see if they could get it to run. And they probably should have abandoned it right when they saw the rust holes. I need a socket for that side. Maybe this one. Nope. Well, they missed the gasket completely. So that probably leaked a bit. But I'm sure in the truck it was in, it wasn't easy to get to. I did hear the push rod drop down, so. Let's see, is it? Well, it's sucking something. So maybe it's not bad and they're just not pulling fuel. Probably hold on to it just in case. Yeah, I can see where the marks where the push rod was, so at least they had it on there. Yeah, that gasket was all sorts of off. Bunch of silicone on there. Now the push rod dropped down. I'll have to pull this other plate. Try to get that to go back in there and push some grease, put some grease on it. Maybe it'll stay up in there and put a new fuel pump on it. So, well, anyway, I think that's where we're going to call it for today. We know what we're into. Engine's mounted, transmission's mounted. Now, the transmission and the engine, this came out of that truck in one piece. I was told it worked. I don't know how, or it couldn't have worked very well because this was in there, but it wasn't hooked to anything. So I've got a new TV cable for that. You know, and a filter and gasket for the transmission pan. So we'll get this cleaned up, and next time we'll put it all back together and maybe see if we can't get it to fire. So, but appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe.